in 2 years' time. But thank you to everyone. So the next part is we have a guest who came in the last minute. So I'm really thankful to Vince Wells being able to come in, and Charlie being able to invite Vince Wells to talk to us. Charlie, can you please introduce Vince?
Yeah, Vince is the president of the Contra Costa County firefighters, and he lives in Hercules. And Jerry Short is vice president of the union, and he works with the Rodeo-Hercules Fire Protection District. And so I guess we should start out with Vince, and then Jerry will fill us into some of the details about our local fire district, unless you feel that you want to turn that around and Jerry talk first. But I thought maybe Vince would kind of open the conversation, maybe.
Vince, you guys can share any materials you want to share. It's open.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate the fact that Charlie brought us and the to come and speak to this board, this body, and talk a little bit about fire. I thought some of the well, first of all, I have to say I want to congratulate Tiffany and Alex and Charles in your campaigns and your elections to your bodies.
And Jamila also. Jamila's here.
Jamila. Oh, she's here. Okay. As well as Jamila. So we, with the races this time, because I know Alex is probably mad at me. I want to say that, we were very supportive. I sit on the Labor Council and assured and advocated for the support and endorsement. Just so you know, fire decided, because of a lot of the issues that were going on within a lot of communities in Contra Costa County have went to new redistricting. There was the issues with fire and defunding the police and things like that. And we work very closely with police. And we just felt like, hey, this is time for the community to make decisions and fire not to get involved with influencing elections. So where we could do our influence, we did. And we're very supportive of I know Alex and I talked a long time ago when he first ran, and very proud to see where he ended up on this and being the top vote getter. Strong work, my brother. And also got to know Tiffany as well and had a lot of communications with her. And so I just wanted to acknowledge you both for your successes in this election. I'll just give a quick overview because there's a lot of misunderstanding about fire, but I did want to have some time to talk about Measure X, because that is the hot topic today. And we were, behind that. Also want to acknowledge Jerry Short, who's my right-hand man, vice president of Local 1230, and he works for Rodeo-Hercules. He's a captain in your department and very active in your community and strong advocate for fire service levels and protection in the Rodeo-Hercules Fire District. So Jerry will come on to correct me or add anything if necessary, but I wanted to make sure. Yeah, and he's on duty today, so if the bells go off, then he's got to go. If you want to say hello or something, Jerry, I'll give you you only get 30 seconds.
Hey, thanks, Vince. Appreciate it. Compliments from this guy are rare, so I'll take it.
All right. So anyway, congratulations to Charles. We're looking forward to working with you on our board. as you know, we have the Rodeo-Hercules Fire District is governed by its own fire board. So there's a station in Hercules, there's a station in Rodeo, and the governing body is a fire district board. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't compete to run for our board of directors, but it's like one of the most critical positions in your jurisdiction, as they're ones who tell you what your fire service levels are going to be. So we appreciate Charles stepping up to run and take on that seat. Rodeo-Hercules. So let me just give you another overview about fire agencies. There's 19 cities in Contra Costa County. 16 of them are within Local 1230s, the areas that I represent. Out of those 19 cities, there's 3 city fire departments: Richmond, El Cerrito, and Pinole. All of the other cities, the other 16 cities, are in what we call a fire district. So Confire, which is where I just retired from in March 3rd, after 23 years, has 9 of those 19 cities. And so we're the largest department. We have 28 fire stations. Then you have Rodeo-Hercules that has 2, which is 1 in Rodeo and 1 in Hercules. You have the Moraga-Renda Fire District that is made up of 5 stations, with 3 of them in Orinda and 2 in Moraga. But they are a fire district just like yours, governed by a board of directors. You have San Ramon Valley Fire District. That's not a 1230. Moraga-Renda is in my union. San Ramon is not. And I believe they have 7 stations, and they cover everything south of Walnut Creek. So San Ramon, Danville, Alamo, and so on. And then the other fire district is East Contra Costa, which everybody hears about because they're the ones that are most grossly underserved, and that is everybody east of Antioch. So Confire covers everybody all the way to the border of Antioch, then Brentwood, Oakley, Bethel Island, Discovery Bay, Knightson. All of that is a totally different fire department. They have their own fire board. So there's actually 12 fire agencies, meaning 12 chiefs, 12 different departments working independently of each other at the government's level, but at the street level, we all work together. And you are in what's called Battalion 7, which is one of the ones where we have the most significant integration of multiple jurisdictions working. So a Richmond firefighter, El Cerrito firefighter, a Pinole firefighter, and a Rodeo-Hercules firefighter, and a Contra Costa firefighter, because Contra Costa has a station in San Pablo and a station in El Sobrani. All of those guys could be on one fire, and they all have different chiefs, different policies, different practices. And we lost 2 firefighters out there in 2007, which one of them was an academy mate of mine, and that's we've never ever, and that happened in Montalban Manor area out in San Pablo, and that's something we've never gotten over. And one of the things that we learned was the fact that we had multiple fire agencies going to the same hazardous incident, but with policies and radio practices and everything that are so different, that we lost 2 firefighters unnecessarily, and it was due to that lack of community and cooperation and unity. So that's a huge issue for us. And so where you are in Battalion 7, you have the Rodeo. You have your Rodeo station, your Hercules station, and then you have Confire has the El Sobrani in San Pablo, and then we have Pinole. And so all of us are called Battalion 7. So if there's a fire, you get 4 engines and a truck to that fire. So when Rodeo-Hercules only has 2, Pinole only has 1, and Fire has 2, you can imagine that on one house fire, you have fire. None of the agencies in Battalion 7 have enough resources to handle their own incident. So not to harp on that too much more, but the point I'm getting to is what we're pushing for is consolidation. There have been multiple studies. LAFCO's done studies. We've had a lot of people come and do studies, and they say these small departments should be all considered joining some other department. We should have one chief managing all the policies, practices, and personnel under one roof, rather than us, especially when these calls happen every day. It's not like I worked at Station 9 in Pacheco, where every now and then we would go to Vallejo or to Benicia, but it was like once in every 4 or 5 months. What happens in Battalion 7 is Rodeo-Hercules is in Pinole, Rodeo-Hercules is in El Cerrito, they're in El Soprani, they're in wherever in San Pablo, and it happens every day. So it's not like the standard automatic aid or mutual aid, it's everyday aid. And I know my brother Tom is on the phone, and they're not, and being an IBEW, they're not going to wire a house where, well, we got one guy in this room wiring this room, and another guy wiring the house in the other room, and the other guy and whatever, and all be working on different policies and practices. That's what we have going on in Battalion 7. So our efforts are to push for the consolidation, and Rodeo-Hercules and Fire's fire chief, Chief Burchard, we are in communication right now, and we are heading in that direction. What we're going to have to do is obviously show the board the benefits of it, and then show the financial gains, because there are going to be financial gains, because a 2-horse show is what we will call Rodeo-Hercules. You don't need, they're missing one thing. In Contra Costa, we have a training tower. We have a whole division for EMS. I mean, we have a 350 member department. And in Rodeo-Hercules, there's 2 stations. There's 18 firefighters and only a chief and an assistant. One battalion chief only works 1/3 of the shifts, and then they have a temporary administrator. And so how are you assuring training, certification, making sure firefighters are physically fit, managing all the HR issues? One of the big things that we all learned is COVID. One firefighter shows up to work, COVID positive, and you wipe out 8 or 9 guys. Fire, we just recently in Richmond, we were on a fire in Richmond, and there were 8 Richmond guys that are now off on quarantine, and 8 Contra Costa firefighters off on quarantine. 16 firefighters, because one person was COVID positive and they were working at the same house fire. Let that happen in Rodeo-Hercules with 18 firefighters. The impact of one COVID positive firefighter coming to work with a personnel of 18, you're wiping out the whole department. And everybody else is going to have to come now and staff your stations and things like that. So there's a lot of reasons why we are, now pushing harder for the consolidation, and so that is moving forward. And so I would hope the new council members for Hercules, our new board of director, will be on our side, because there will be some people who start talking about local control and all these things. It's like Pinole's talking about local control with one fire station. And like I told you, if there's a house fire in Pinole, you have their one station with their 3 guys and everybody else coming in. how you calling that local control, it's misappropriated control in this day and age with the number of fires that we have and how big they are. We're sending engines to Los Angeles, to Vallejo, and so every time you send these resources out of town, we don't close fire stations at all. So if Station 73 in Pinole sends a crew to Berryessa, that means 3 guys that were off duty now have to come on and staff that station and be forced to work. So they got to work extra shifts and whatever. And we're doing that, and we're struggling at a level that we've never struggled at before, because the fires have gotten so frequent and so big that everybody's strained. I mean, my members are calling me every day with, I want to call quit. I haven't been home in 2 weeks. And what are you going to do? And how are you going to fix this? And now you're going to whatever. It's because we have a mutual aid system that we take care of other agencies. But when the frequency of this happening, these are things that have to change. And so to me, consolidation of Rodeo-Hercules. We're also working on the consolidation of East Contra Costa. All these things you guys are going to be hearing about. And I just want to make sure that you are educated and can reach out to myself and Jerry to support, especially within Rodeo-Hercules, because there will be, like I said, those that will come out. We know that you have a city council member. Unfortunately, he's still in the top 3, and it would have been nice if he was, maybe I'm saying too much there. But that a lot of people try to interfere with what the Rodeo-Hercules Fire District is doing and can't separate that their city of Hercules is not responsible. And Alex and I have had this conversation in detail. They're not responsible for the fire district, but you are responsible for the fire service in your community. So you should still pay attention to what's going on with Rodeo-Hercules, but they're the authority. So last thing, Measure X. Jerry and I were like probably the spokespersons for fires. I was in a lot of videos and a lot of presentations, and so was Jerry, to supporting Measure X. Measure X is a general tax that goes to the board of supervisors, but when they polled and they did all the work, fire was we call ourselves the stallions that pulled the measure across the line. So people voted for Measure X because they wanted support for their fire services. So because none of us are funded by the board of supervisors, as I just said, the 4 special districts, Margarita, Rodeo-Hercules, and Confire, and East County, then San Ramon, everybody has their own board, and they get a certain section of the property tax. Nobody gets money from the board of supervisors. Confire, which is the department I'm from, is governed by them, but they put on a different hat, and they're just managing money that's not coming from the general fund. So everybody questioned how is Measure X going to get any money to fire. I have a very strong, and I talked to 3 of the supervisors today, relationship with the 5 board of supervisors, and I feel very confident that we've done our part in assuring that Rodeo-Hercules, that every fire agency somehow is going to benefit from Measure X. We're the top polling issue in the county, and we refuse to be used, because that's what a lot of the fire chiefs said. You guys are letting them, because labor is the one behind it. You're letting them use you. They're going to vote for it, and then you're not going to get it. Fire's not going to get any money. That's not going to happen. And I would hope every city council and every elected person, does their job to assure that doesn't happen. But we see this Measure X is helping us with consolidating and fixing some of our shortfalls. What the biggest shortfall in your area is Pinole still. They used to have, when we created about Battalion 7, everybody had 2 stations. So Confire had station in El Sobrani and San Pablo. Rodeo-Hercules had their 2 stations, one in Rodeo, and Pinole had 2. They had one in the valley and they had one in their city hall. They are the only ones right now. They're running short, still one since 2012. So they need to, they're getting the benefit, the city of Pinole is getting the benefits of all of us, but there's still only one station and getting the benefit of everybody else having 2. So we're hoping to figure out a way. We have a new council in the city of Pinole. We got rid of relics out there. And if any of you guys were fans with any of those relics, I apologize, but they turned out, and we have a new vision, and we think that we're going to be able to work to restore that station that's in Pinole Valley, and hopefully we can use Measure X funds. Though that's what I've been lobbying Supervisor Joya and Federal Glover and all of them on that represent the West Side. So I'll leave it at that. Jerry, you got 30 seconds to add? No. If you want to add something, go ahead. But other than that, I'll leave it to questions. And
yeah, I mean, I can just add if there's questions for Vince, that's fine. I have some just demographic type stuff that Charles had asked us to kind of have together in case there was any questions. But I'll let Vince have the floor until further notice.
So go ahead.
All right. So as Vince said, I do work here in Hercules. I'm a captain here for the Rodeo-Hercules Fire District. I actually came over in 2013 from the City of Pinole Fire Department. If anybody was familiar with the politics at that time, me and a few of my coworkers were the rats jumping off the sinking ship that was Pinole, according to the West County Times. So with that, I've been in this union now for 20 years, and I've been vice president now for I think 6. And I oversee the departments we represent here in West Contra Costa County. So I have Rodeo-Hercules, City of Pinole, El Cerrito, Kensington, and Moraga-Orinda, all under my supervision. So as far as Rodeo-Hercules goes, the district is current population, and that's the communities of Rodeo and Hercules. We're currently at about 42,000, and that doesn't include the anticipated 10,000 plus growth with Hilltown and all the other upcoming developments in Hercules. So we are still going to see a substantial increase and still try to answer all those calls for service with just 18 line personnel and 2 stations. We currently average about 2,600 calls a year and between the 2 stations, and we've seen a gradual uptick in those. You know, every year we do our surveys and the numbers just keep rising and rising, as do, you know, the population numbers. I think Selena had touched base on the Measure O and, you know, brought up that dollar amount, and Charles did the math real quick. And so Measure O, that was another huge success of this local and the firefighters here within Rodeo-Hercules. You know, pre-COVID times, that was one of the strongest elections and campaigns that we had, and it was in dire need. That generates a $2.5 million annual revenue into what is our general fund for fire service. That includes, when we did this, all seniors in the city and town of Rodeo are exempt. They just have to fill out an exemption form every year. Unfortunately, you know, this is the first year since Measure O was passed that we actually saw that full 2.5 million. And for the first year, we also had a board that approved our escalator and increase. As some of you are well aware, our previous elected board prior to the current sitting board, not including any of the members that are currently outgoing, but we had a very volatile makeup with a very not so good poster child. I'll leave it at that. And so since then, we've been able to restore a little bit of order. The last year or two has been exceptionally productive, and we're moving forward with consolidation. During the previous board sitting, consolidation was really within our clutches, so to speak. We were entering into a administrative contract deal for 5 years, and unfortunately a former board member blew that up after a public handshake agreement with then Chief Carmen and Assistant Chief Richard of ComFire, our fire chief, and all of my members present. Within a month's time, that went sideways, and then we've since regrouped, and we fought to get our current chief in his place due to some other board shenanigans that we're trying to go on. And but now we're pushing on with this consolidation effort. As Vince kind of touched on, Michelle Drive incident, as it's referred to us, is a huge thing. Unfortunately, there's more and more firefighters that are coming on that just due to age and how long ago that incident was, they're not familiar with it. But I was there. As I said, I've been doing this for 20 years, so I got hired in 2001, and I worked with and still work with a lot of my brothers that were on that incident and still, dealing with that and the lingering effects. But that is one thing that Vince and I still reflect on yearly, unfortunately, on the anniversary of that unfortunate event, of the things that really just haven't been accomplished out here on the West Side. And, there is not to be understated the amount of difference there is amongst the agencies out here. Even in the Battalion 7 agencies, there is some problems, so to speak. We're supervised by each other's battalion chiefs, but we all know how that can go. You don't wear the same patch or badge. Our brothers in labor would understand that you can get a whole house full of electricians, framers, plumbers, and generally speaking, in the Bay Area, they're all going to make the exact same, going to receive the same benefit. Unless you're the guys that are working in San Francisco, you might get that commute stipend or whatever. But for the most part, it's very unheard of for our kind of situation. But we carry ourselves appropriately. We fight our battles. Local 1230 as a whole, I'll say this for Vince because he loves to hear this one, but our local is known for fighting above its weight class, so to speak, and that's both in the political arena and then also at our local levels to make improvements and enhance services for our members and the community alike. And so with that, I will just say that yes, we are moving forward with a lot of emphasis on this consolidation effort. Our board has agreed to move forward with a study that's going to show the feasibility for that, and we'll be working to develop presentations and everything on the additional services that the county brings to your Rodeo-Hercules firefighters and you as citizens of this community. And we'll be pushing forward, and we are happy to speak with any of you on this topic as we move forward, and we will be, and we encourage you guys to reach out to us with any questions, and we'll do our best to facilitate that. And then with that, I will say congratulations to Alex. Sorry we didn't get to work together as much this go around, but I know last time we gave it our best. Charles, congratulations. Jamila and the others, welcome, and we'll look forward to working with you.
Thanks, Jerry. Thank you, Vince. Does anyone have any questions for them? They said a lot, so it's a lot of things. Jerry?
Oh, I'm sorry, my internet went out a little bit, so maybe you said this and I missed it. You're talking about consolidation with the Rodeo-Hercules. Would that mean kind of like a merger with ComFire? Is that what you're talking about, or how would that exactly work? And are you looking for that for Pinole as well, the Pinole Fire Department? And thirdly, what would happen with the Measure O funds?
Well, that's a good question. Those are the things that are being studied in this phase 2, as far as we've looked at the rough draft of financial feasibility of the study. It's moving forward with Rodeo-Hercules that it would be financially feasible. Actually, there'll be some cost savings there with services with the consolidation. The other part is, Yeah, Rodeo-Hercules is its own fire district. As you know, Sherry, and Pinole is a city fire department. So if the city of Pinole wants to join Confire, it's a totally different government action. Because like I'll use Confire for example. Contra Costa Fire is made up of 9 cities, you know, from Walnut Creek, Concord, Martinez, Glen Hill, you know, Pittsburgh, Antioch, and whatnot. And then the unincorporated areas, that makes up Confire. So if Pinole wants to be part of that jurisdiction, then that's a governmental action for them to annex into the district and LAFCO, and there's a lot of process to be involved with that. I think one of the simpler ways of looking at it is if Pinole could contract within the district and pay a portion and be a part of Contra Costa without actually going through that whole annexation process. With Rodeo-Hercules, we're looking at that being part of the more complicated version, that they become part of Confire. So instead of Confire having just the 9 cities, now it will have 10, including Hercules and then the unincorporated area. So as far as financially, the amount of revenue that Rodeo-Hercules is getting, including Measure O money, is what's necessary to be able to consolidate into the district. So it would change if all of a sudden Measure O funds weren't available. That's $2.5 million. Then Confire is probably going to say, well, now it's not a cost neutral. Rodeo-Hercules needs the $2.5 million to run its 2 stations. To all of a sudden now, if they come into Confire, they still need that $2.5 million in the deal, to just be frank. So if Measure O money for whatever reason is not transferable, then I think we're going to have a different conversation of whether the Rodeo-Hercules consolidation is viable or feasible for Confire.
Well, I guess I'm looking at it a little differently. Would Measure O funds stay within Rodeo-Hercules, or would they go into a more general pot, you know, like a bigger pot where they could be used elsewhere?
Yeah, no, I don't want to answer that because I'm not at that level. This is the way I look at it, and I know how taxpayers, you know, everybody gets a little, you know, very, which, you know, rightfully so, gets territorial about it. But if the service level that you would get with joining Confire and the resources that would be available to the community. Confire we have fire boats, we got a helicopter, you got a whole training facility, you got, like I said, EMS training divisions where the employees would have much bigger opportunities of getting educated. That the concern would be, do you lose any service level? And so now are you paying Measure O money and losing service? No, you're going to be paying, if let's just say Measure O still goes to Confire, you're going to be getting a higher level of service out of that $228. So I personally don't see why it's relevant, but I know it's going to be, because people like to look at, well, where's our tax dollars going to go? Is if you're part of a bigger organization, you pay in.
No, I understand that. And I think clearly there are benefits. I think, you know, with a larger organization, there are you know, you mentioned a lot of them, the helicopters, the training and stuff like that. But I think from the community's perspective, if that occurred, and then, for example, the Rodeo Fire Station closed, which was one of the reasons for Measure O, and what was decided that there would only be the Hercules Fire Station again, which not too many years ago, that's the way it was. I think the community would perhaps be a little concerned about that.
No, I would agree that that's a good concern. Reasonable to say, if they bring you in, if we brought Rodeo-Hercules into Confire and then something went down and they said, well, we got to close the Rodeo station.
Yeah.
Then I would no, I think that's a reasonable concern, but those are the types of conversations that come up all the time. And I mean, even with us talking about consolidation, Measure X money, well, what if the new board takes the Measure X money and does something else? We all get that those opportunities, or nobody can sit there and seal the deal and say there aren't concerns. It's just sometimes you gotta kind of take some chances, or
There's no guarantee one way or the other.
no guarantee. I can guarantee you this, though, it wouldn't happen for a while, and that it is an enhancement of service for Rodeo-Hercules to be part of the larger jurisdiction with, like I just said, when I use the, you talk about helicopter and all those things, but I think the bigger bang for your buck is Rodeo-Hercules had 5, and Jerry can straighten me out on it, but we had a bunch of people off on workers' comp, and we had to take the paramedic. We have a paramedic on every engine, and most of the people that were out were paramedics.
Yeah.
So
we
you lost a level of service that there was just no way, unless you're going to force all the remaining paramedics to never go home. It had an impact on having paramedics on both your stations, because a small department, like I said, 18 guys, so we run 9 people per station.
Yeah, so at one point this summer we hit a critical, I mean, we're still 4 people out on long-term injury right now, but at one point we were with a vacancy. 5 of our 9 paramedics were non-existent. And so we were running our 3 to fill every shift, but I ended up being, I think, 5 days in 1 month where only one station had a paramedic on duty. And that's a first since we went ALS in, I don't know, probably 15 years. So it's that kind of stuff. This was also one of the first years that we didn't participate in any auto aid or state mutual aid for all of the many fires going on throughout the state of California. Usually we go out, all the time, and we, pay that game with everybody else in the state, and we travel all over. And this was one of the first years we couldn't do that simply because of our staffing, and we're not looking forward to another summer or another year being like this. And then we've also, we've experienced some recruitment and retention issues based on our limited size and the experience there. A lot of these young, new, energetic folks, they're coming in and, they get hired with roommates and everything from various departments throughout the state or the Bay. And there's all these other opportunities, when you come onto the job after X amount of time, and a fireboat or a hazmat rig or a helicopter program, a dozer program, all these, a real truck company, a dual station house, all these things that they hear about, and opportunities, and then the administrative support, and then the depth of training that goes with it. We can't hold a candle to it. And like I've explained to my board alike, it's not necessarily the pay that's always at the top of their list of priorities. It's usually down a little bit because they're looking for career opportunity. And, this is it's a marathon of a career for a lot of us. All the newer, younger generation are getting hired. They're just because of their retirement, they're being forced to work a lot longer. And so, where my career is 30 years, some of them are looking at longer, but I'm also, I'm on my, like I said, 20 years in, and I'm kind of tapped out as far as my upward mobility in my department right now. There's really, if I was interested, I'd have to wait for a pending retirement that, doesn't have a date or hasn't been announced yet. So that's the kind of stuff we're getting into, with this as well.
Steve Curry has a question.
Hello, thanks for being here. Can you kind of explain the process for getting this done? I mean, it seems like it's very complex with cities and counties and such. Is it going to be a county-wide issue? Are we going to be able to vote? Is it going to be cities? What's the process for getting this done?
So my understanding, and like I said, I don't want to be the official spokesperson as far as, because I'm not the fire chief. but, or a board member, but if the board, both boards, I know already your board representatives, I don't want to speak 100% for Supervisor Glover or Joya, but they're aware and see the opportunity in this consolidation. So they are they wear two hats. So they're the board of directors, they're the board of supervisors, but they're also the fire board for Contra Costa Fire. So they approve, say, yeah, we want to bring them in. Rodeo-Hercules board approves it. Then there's a process of going through LAFCO, who is they're the governing body for special districts. So they would be the ones that intervene into, okay, assuring that all those T's are crossed and I's are dotted. And it could be as simple as that. Obviously, if the public, opposes it, shows up to board meetings or whatever, and the boards don't have an opportunity to just vote and move it forward, then it's going to take other maps. I mean, it could lead to a ballot initiative that we could bring forward, or some citizen groups. It just depends on where the opposition is to how complex it is my understanding. But I believe if both boards support it, it does not have to go to a public for a vote. But with LAFCO is you can petition anything with a certain number of signatures, and then so therefore that could change the whole route. There's not a requirement that the community votes if both boards support it.
Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah, I'm curious about Measure O. Apparently there's still openings on the Measure O Oversight Committee. And so you alluded to the fact about the your conversation when Sherry brought it up about the the legality of what happens to the Measure O money. I just was wondering if anybody has I guess that's up to a lawyer to kind of talk about, or is there anybody we could talk about to get a better legal sense of that in relationship to the actual measure?
It's my understanding that has been looked into. Obviously, that was an obvious. There's
Right.
Rodeo-Hercules has 2 benefit assessments, as well as the Measure O from back in the 70s. And so the question was, are those transferable, and are they transferable under a process of consolidation or whatever? In my understanding, like I said, I don't want to be official, that is my understanding, that was a question, is Measure O transferable under consolidation, or does it need to be an annexation, or does it need to be, however, and my understanding is they looked into that, and there's not going to be a legal issue with that.
Because there's nobody, I don't know who to talk to about that, since there's no oversight committee. Is that
I think that's it's a simple question and answer. And you can talk to Luann Texera from
okay.
LAFCO or somebody and ask that question. That to me is like one of the first questions to come up when we talked about it. And I've been told that that's been answered. So that was like the first people who were concerned. Can we do that? Oh yeah, we looked into it and we can.
I think there's one concern is that, everything that you guys did to bring Rodeo-Hercules back up after the financial crash in 2010 was short of miraculous, actually. Sometimes people just, good things, sometimes people get nervous about, that like people get nervous about bad things. You get nervous about new things because it's new and it's uncharted territory. So I think it's natural that people would have concerns about, wow, we brought this up, it's really good now, we don't want to change anything, but I think your guys' opinions about the functioning of the fire department overall, better under consolidation, because we're all split up, all of our little towns over here. And, I imagine that's just a real nightmare trying to stitch it all together. I noticed, just a little side that it seems like we do a lot of calls into Pinole versus Pinole coming into Hercules. Is that because of they have a weak fire department and underfunded it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
They only have one. Well, they only have one
station. So
station. So when there's a call, and that's the thing is with what we call automatic aid. So let's just say El Sobrani has a medical call, and that engine is on a vehicle accident somewhere. Then the next call that goes into El Sobrani is most likely going to be coming from Pinole. And if Pinole's on another call, then that second call in El Sobrani is going to come from Hercules. And because we work like we're one department, even though we have different chiefs, different pay, different whatever, but we have Battalion 7's automatic aid. So that's where you do start seeing, well, Pinole used to have 2 stations. They only have 1. They closed their second station, and we did not change our responses. We just picked up. So yeah, you could look at it as Rodeo-Hercules or Contra now running more calls into Pinole and like, hey, Pinole, when are you going to reopen your station? Because we're running all your calls in that area. That's the case. That's what we're doing. And it just makes no sense to us firefighters, because if we were just one department, that's what we do. When I'll use my department. I work in Martinez. If there's a fire in Pleasant Hill, then we take our Martinez engine, we run to Pleasant Hill. They would come to Martinez, but we're all being paid for by the same group. So it's not a subsidy where you could look at, like, is Rodeo-Hercules subsidizing Pinole? Or is Contra subsidizing Pinole? Yeah, you can raise those questions because you're different departments and taxpayers are paying for their fire department. But the way we operate is we do a borderless system, and you're supposed to look at that and evaluate that as a governing body to make sure your tax dollars are being used appropriately, and you don't have one. Because you look at, and I hate to say this in this group, but Richmond is on the border of Pinole. They don't come into Pinole. Their city is, we're a fire department, we protect our city. And so they're only going to come to Pinole under like what we call the mutual aid, not the automatic aid. Like they could be right across the border, the closest engine to a call in Pinole, and Richmond's not going to get called to go to it. Where everywhere else, the agreements we have in Battalion 7 is we've agreed that we're going to send the closest engine, and it doesn't matter what patch you have. But like I said, Richmond only has agreement with my department, Fire, but we pay each other. So at the end of the year, you look at, well, how many times did Richmond come to San Pablo, and how many times did San Pablo go into Richmond? They divvy up the cost, and one side pays the other depending on it. Pinole, Rodeo-Hercules, and Fire don't. We're all automatic. Nobody's counting the calls. Now, if I was a citizen in the questions that you raised, I would definitely be concerned with, well, Pinole only has 1 station. Why is our Rodeo-Hercules going over there more times than they're coming over here? And there's no money exchange. That's why consolidation is just a better way of managing the resources and taking the government issues and those kind of questions out of the picture. That we're all paying in to the same entity, so everybody's getting the same benefit, and you don't have to worry about, well, how many times are you coming my way and I'm coming your way?
Vince, if Pinol doesn't join Confire and Hercules Rodeo joins Confire, it's going to be the same thing. We're going to have to help Pinol because they're part of Battalion 7, right?
Mhm.
So what difference does that make? We're still going to have to help Pinol, even if Rodeo-Hercules merges with Confire.
Well, my goal, my hopes are, if the Pied Piper here of Contra Costa is that we get Pinol, we have that Measure X money that we pass, and somehow we reopen that Valley Station.
Okay, then my next
Therefore,
question is,
It would be easier to do that if we're one family than to say, we're going to send a check to Rodeo-Hercules, we're going to send a check. I mean, if you're asking the Board of Supervisors to take general fund money and disperse it to cities, it would be easier if you're under one chief. And here's your check. I want to make sure that all the West Side, all Central County, all East County is getting fire protection. How much does it cost? It'd be better than to say, well, we're going to send some money to Pinol, maybe reopen their station. Then you're going to have Richmond saying, well, why don't we get any money? We closed the truck company, we whatever. And El Cerrito's going through their budget crisis. You get all these hands into this county pot of Measure X money, which was predictable that this was going to happen. But the more people that join together and you take 6 hands and turn them to 1 hand, then we're going to benefit the community better. Measure X money will be distributed better. We just have to get the government out of the, like Pinol's biggest problem has always been with Pete and all them on there, is we want local control. So they would never consider consolidation. They want local control. Okay, you got local control of 1 fire engine with 3 people on it. And your house fire in your city requires 15 firefighters and you only have 3. So how do you stand on the ground that I got local control? So that's the frustration from this fire side, our firefighter side, is because we wear different shirts, but we're painting the same house every day. And we're treated differently because of where we came from. And it's not equal. If I was a citizen of Pinol, and I did want to correct something, somebody said, Charles said, I live in Hercules, I don't. But the point is, if I knew that, all us firefighters know the inequity of service delivery. But I've seen Pinol and Hercules argue over the water, the sanitation, and how they fight over that. But with your fire resources, we're just used, we cross borders, we go everywhere. Like I said, we go up and down the state, we go all across nobody seems to really care about where their engine is going. It's just when they call 911 that they get an engine. And they don't even really know that it's like when I worked in Martinez and I run a call in Pinol, I'm showing up in Pinol in an engine that says Martinez on the side of it. And it doesn't matter. People don't even know. They don't even know.
Well,
So
I have a question.
So not
Sorry.
to get too much into that, but
So my next question is, what if the residents of Hercules and Rodeo do not favor a merger? What happens next, Jerry? What happens to the Rodeo-Hercules Fire District in the next 5 years?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I would say that unfortunately, we're going to see a huge increase in turnover. So we're going to lose some good employees that are hanging in the balance right now for this opportunity. We've already seen, from the time that we reopened Station 75 in 2014 with our SAFER grant, where we hired 9 people, we only have 2 that were hired from that existing grant. The other 7 have left for other departments throughout the Bay Area. So we're going to see an increase in turnover at a time when we're going to see huge demand and upswing in the population growth of the city of Hercules. And then we're going to be still faced with answering the call, with less resources. There's really no strategic plan that exists right now to show a 5-year growth as a standalone fire district as we currently are. So we're going to be faced with tough times. And then, you know, when those tough times come, Measure O, like we said, does generate a significant portion, but will that answer the call for what we could need going forward, you know? And then we're still going to be in the same predicament we're in now with a mixed bag. You're still going to see a Rodeo or a Hercules engine running over the hill into Pinole. You know, you don't notice it now because both engines in Rodeo and Hercules look very similar, but we run each other's calls, you know, all the time. But you just don't notice it, and your city doesn't, you know, really notice a difference, you know. And I agree with Vince that most people, they just care about the red fire truck showing up. So I think that we're going to be in some big trouble. I hope that the new incoming council has a better relationship with our chief and our board as long as they're around. But, you know, we have some issues amongst the council right now. And, you know, those certain personalities, you know, that threaten to, you know, close a station here and there when times get rough or whatever. But, you know, and also being an autonomous fire district, we're based on property value and our benefit assessments. So when those assessment values go down, if, you know, we ever see another economic downturn like we did and the housing market crashes and stuff, that's our operating costs also. So, you know, I don't see how Hercules could, you know, could bear the brunt of that alone. We're currently not part of any of your financial plannings, you know, as a city. And so worst case scenario, and I've had this conversation with a certain mayor and he got really, really upset. But the truth of the matter is that the city of Hercules has no fire protection, and legally you'd be held responsible for then providing your own fire service, and Rodeo, being the county incorporated area, would automatically fall underneath the county's, you know, jurisdiction. So in essence, you know, worst case scenario, the next time a station closed, it would be the city of Hercules fire station, and all fire protection services would be provided to the county. And that's, you know, that's worst case scenario right there. And then now city of Hercules is scrambling to find a piece of the general fund pie of how we're going to fund the fire department. And that includes your unfunded liability, your fire chief, your training, your apparatus, you know, the benefits and everything. So that's, you know, something to consider. And, you know, it's one of the things that Vince and I always tell our, you know, entities that are interested in this contract, go ask Concord, Pleasant Hill, or Walnut Creek, Martinez, the last time that they were worried about fire when it came to budget planning or, you know, shortcomings in their budgets. They don't worry about it. And so that would be one more thing that, you know, the city of Hercules, I don't mean to sound, you know, rude when I say it, but they don't have to think about providing fire service now. It just gets done. But could you imagine actually having to put thought into how we're going to fund it? So I'll leave it with that. That's worst case scenario.
No, but it's a fire district that
Yeah.
takes care of it. So in lieu of consolidation,
Mhm.
would an increase in property taxes to put in more money to the district, can that be an answer?
I don't think it would solve all of our.
Let me answer that.
Yeah, go ahead, Vince.
If you're talking about, it depends on what you're talking about. Like Jerry said, there's growth going on, and there's a lot of plans out there in Hercules. There is no plan or no conversation that we've been involved in about a third station. But we are seeing the building and everything else going. There is no plan about a third station. So Rodeo-Hercules is working on the budget with the Measure O, the benefit assessments, and its current property taxes, and it's living within its means. It's nowhere near fat. The only administration you have is you have a fire chief, you have 1/3 of a battalion chief, and there's 3 shifts. So there's a battalion, every other department has a battalion chief for each shift. In Battalion 7, Pinole provides C shift. You guys provide A shift, or Confire provides C shift. I mean, you guys provide A shift, and Pinole provides B shift. So that's where the 3 battalion chiefs, which are the guys in the buggy, the SUV that kind of take over managing of the fire. And so, and then you have, so you have the chief, you have a semi part-time administrator, and then you have 1/3 of a battalion chief. That's it. That's your headquarters. Where everybody else has an EMS chief, an operations chief, a chief of administrative services, a training chief, and then all the other additional staff, the administration clerks, HR.
Yeah, human resources.
Rodeo-Hercules
We don't have that stuff.
You don't even have an HR department. You have nothing. You just got 3 people above the firefighters.
Yeah.
Which
And
is-
anytime, so like on the human resources, anytime there's a conflict that the fire chief can't handle, or, you know, it's outside of his norm, we're paying a contracted service provider to come in and handle a human resource issue, or, you know, a personnel matter. So,
You're paying a financial firm to come in.
and do our books.
Everybody else they have a budget. They have an administrator that manages that. So what I'm getting to is, if the department grows or the call volume goes, there is no like projected plan to deal with that within the district. So when you ask me what would happen, could you increase taxes? Sure, but what are you getting? Are you gonna just increase it to continue with on already underserved head, as they call it, the consultants have done? There's no headquarters. Rodeo-Hercules headquarters is non-existent for a normal fire department. If you were to have a firefighter killed in Rodeo-Hercules, you have everybody else is going to have to come in and handle that whole situation for the department. Don't have the resources. Your chief every now and then goes out on strike teams to help with fires. A fire chief leaves his department to go run a fire or be part of a command team in Napa or something. And so you have no chief here. And that happens every summer. So it just makes no sense for there to be, and every consultant that's come through, they came through Pinole and Rodeo-Hercules, they said these small departments with no headquarters should try to find somebody somewhere to merge and consolidate, so you get all that bang for your buck. Like Jerry's saying, if he gets hurt, you take Confire, we have 90 captains. They only have their 6. So you lose 2, then you're mandatory in others where people can rotate in, rotate out. People can go to stations and get different experiences. The only options you have in Rodeo-Hercules, and this is why a lot of people leave, is because I can work in Hercules and I can work in Rodeo. This department has a boat program. I want to be on a boat, so I'm leaving Rodeo-Hercules as soon as I get a chance to go work for Alameda City or Alameda County or Oakland or Confire, because firefighters, that when they sign up, they want a full career in fire service. They don't want to just be a one-horse show and this is all I do. And then, like Jerry was saying, there's only 6 captains. So if I'm an engineer there and I want to promote to captain, and Jerry's 40 and the other captains are all 40, we can only retire when we get 55. I got to wait 15 years before I can even promote. And so people leave because there's no options. The small town fire department, 1-horse, 2-horse show is played out. And I know the community is going to look at it differently. So I don't want to sound like I'm not considering that, but just in today's profession, especially California, we fight a lot of fires and we have a lot of departments, and people are much more into the business and the career of being a firefighter, that they're starting to see where their options are. So Rodeo-Hercules will probably, because we're getting ready to hire another group, and every group that we've hired now in the last like 5-6 years, the people that we've hired are leaving after like 2 or 3 years. They come on, they get that experience. They're able to now say, hey, I worked 2 years as a firefighter paramedic in Rodeo.
Yeah,
And Oakland's hiring. I'm going to Oakland.
Yeah, it's a costly cyclical, deal, because we invest into these people when we hire them. We outfit them, we train them, we get them up to speed, and they stay, 2 to up. Some of them even been here 7 years and still leave, and then they take off, and then that contributes to overtime costs. It takes a hit to our morale overall, because we're a family and we grow to work with our brothers and sisters really close. And then when a part of that family leaves, you're kind of like left filling that void, and then you start all over again. And then it's only a matter of time before that next person that came in, is got their eye on the horizon as well. And
I think, oh, I'm sorry.
Charlie, I'll call Sherry McCoy for the last question, because we're past 9 o'clock already. We're gonna have to invite Vince and Jerry again in the near future to continue our conversation with you, with you guys, because I think there's a lot of things to be discussed, and also I'm glad both of you came tonight, and then also that 2 incoming council members are here. So I hope everyone gets to talk to each other a lot and well, and then we go deeper into the conversation and really join forces. Whatever happens, whether there's a merger or not, we really need to work with our fire department here. So with that said, Sherry, what's your question, please? Sherry?
Okay, so you mentioned that you'd have a lot of calls where you go into Pinole, because Pinole doesn't really have a robust department. So what percentage of your calls are in Pinole?
I don't know if Jerry has that or not, and I don't want to quote. This is what I want to be, because I don't want to stir up a.
No. The reason I'm asking is because you mentioned that between Confire, that Richmond doesn't come into Pinole. And when Confire and Richmond, they balance out the numbers of times each one helps the other.
Right.
And I'm curious why we don't have a similar type thing with the city of Pinole, so that if we're having to go into Pinole more than they're coming, why isn't there a more balancing to that?
Because that's what that whole Battalion 7, which we just recently signed an agreement. So the 3 agencies signed an agreement that we're gonna be there for each other. And we didn't sign a financial agreement. It was just, your standard is gonna be, you're gonna have a paramedic on every engine. This is the level of training you're gonna have. But all 3 entities, what Richmond refused, Richmond is not, here's the difference. I'll tell you what is the biggest difference. 1230 represents Pinole, Confire, and Rodeo-Hercules. So our union, and my thing is, since I've been the president, is I want my members to, I don't want the safety issue. Richmond's a different union. And so when we had their conversation with them, their stance is, we got 7 engines. We protect our community. We're not there to go protect, if Pinole, and specifically Pinole, when they close their station, they said if Pinole wants to cut their resources in half, our members aren't going to go and leave our community uncovered or short to help a city that's not doing its own thing. Local 1230 represents these other agencies that are in Battalion 7, and for us, we weren't going to take a stance to jeopardize the safety of firefighters, because we're on the line if we don't have that next engine. So that's part of just the politics of it, Sherry, to be honest with you. That's the politics of it, is
I agree with you
we got taken advantage of, I think.
in the firefighters, but it seems like there's a slight imbalance.
Well, I think if I could kind of simplify it a little bit, is we went into an agreement, and if you go back into the archives of what was Pinole City Council and city management over there, Pinole knew with the Battalion 7 agreement that their Bat 7, as it was called by a city manager over there, would bail them out. And
Right.
so that's what they knew with that agreement. And yes, that is what we do. And it is, you know, it has been brought up in many different contexts amongst many different council members. You know, you're comparing apples and oranges, right? Because we have two, they have one, but they still play an integral part into the battalion because they do make up our 5-engine response. So in the larger picture of Confire, Rodeo-Hercules, and Pinole working together, they are, you know, an integral part and they play their role, but it's just on the day-to-day basis when, you know, in the event that they're running multiple calls, they do tap the outside agencies. And that's where the importance of having Station 74 open or a somewhat of a different response model is imperative, but we've never been able to, since 2011, I worked the last 4th of July at Station 74, closed it, and it's never been reopened. I've sat in all the negotiations with Vince and, you know, through all of the management and different council members, they never once have came to us with any kind of offset in closing that station. Just, it's been closed indefinitely.
But the other thing is, if you guys all argue, let's just say Rodeo-Hercules, Pinole, and the Board of Supervisors got into an argument over this, then, oh, it would open up a whole lot of conversation. But I would tell you this, is Rodeo-Hercules only has 2 stations. You need 5 to put out a house fire. So Pinole, and then in even Confire, we only have 2 engines. We got 28 fire stations, but however they cut the map, we got a station in El Sobrante and one in San Pablo. So everybody else around those, so if El Sobrante needs Pinole, Rodeo-Hercules to help them. So everybody's kind of like, they don't want to build 5 stations in Pinole to have enough resources to put out a fire in Pinole. You don't want 5 stations in Rodeo-Hercules because you have to pay now for 3 additional stations. So the partnership in the automatic aid is you're kind of bound to it. And if everybody argued with, why am I doing this? Why am I going there? I would entertain the argument because that's the reality. Why would you, and I had a city manager at Pinole tell me, like Jerry said, she said to me, when I said, you're going to close that station, you're 2/3 of, you have your 2 engines, we got our 2. And she says, Battalion 7 is going to take care of it. I can close that station because I know the rest of the community is going to come in, and we can't afford to keep 2 stations. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it at the local level, at our level? We can't do much. But if you guys all argued about it, I'd be curious to what the solution would be.
What do they have to lose by joining? What do they have to lose by joining in this merger or coalition with Rodeo-Hercules and Confire? They have.
Sorry, everyone. Is it okay for you guys, for us to go
Let's
beyond?
table this for another night. Yes, I appreciate that.
Right.
Unfortunately, me and Vince could speak hours on this, and we've done it before. So
No, it's quite interesting. There's a lot of things to discuss, but
yes, there is.
I just wanted to make sure we respect the other member, every member's time here. So
Sounds
Well,
like we need a
I
committee.
appreciate the opportunity to come on, and we're definitely willing to have any individual conversation.
can we invite you again for
or
this?
come
Our
back.
meeting next month will just be our elections. So can we ask you to come back and continue our conversation next month?
Yes, definitely.
Yep.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, and then also that way the members can think more about this issue and come up with more questions, because I think a lot of people were just taken aback that this is a big issue going on, and a lot of people did not even know about it. So
One of the most important research sources to a community, and
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of underground misunderstanding about what's going on. So I appreciate that, and
so we will
love the opportunity.
we'll really think about it and come up with questions for you guys, and we'll have you back in December, and
Okay.
after, the election is just a short one. And so we
All right.
can talk more at that time.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Well, Jerry and I will sign off and let you close your business. Thanks, Charles, for bringing us here and inviting us. And we appreciate you guys taking the time.
Yeah.
And look forward to.
And then I hope you guys talk to our new council members more and
Oh, yeah.
I'll definitely.
go from there.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Vince.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.